Hi everyone, my name is Didi. Welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about a really good melee build. If you want to go around punching people, smashing people with baseball bats, this is the kind of setup that I'm going to recommend for you guys to use. So, from your registration form from the first screen where you assign your points to each of the special abilities or skill lines, I would recommend you put Strength 9, not 10. I'll explain why when we get to the perk screen, but Strength 9. Perception you don't really need, that's obviously you can see things and spot enemies earlier. When you come out of the vault, you don't really need it, so I'm going to leave it at 1. You can improve it over time. Endurance, I would suggest that this is really important. You're going to take a lot of physical damage, so you need to have high endurance to get your health higher up, but also you're going to be sprinting everywhere. Therefore, it's going to be important to have a really high endurance. So I would set that at 7. Charisma, it's about dialogue, it's about price, it's about bartering. That's not going to help you punch someone in the face. So leave that alone. Same with intelligence. I'm going to leave that alone to begin with. Yes, as always, as you level up, you can put points in there just to help you out in different areas. Agility, minimum I would suggest is 6. That leaves you with, well, and the reason you choose 6 for agility is because it's the number of action points in VATS, and for another very good reason, which I'll show you when I get to the perk chart. Leaves you with 2 points. Where do you want to put those 2 points? That's entirely up to you. If you want to have a little bit more charisma, a little bit more perception, maybe a little bit of luck, entirely up to you. That is what I would say is a core build. Loads of strength, loads of endurance because you're going to get shot a lot. Lots of agility because you need to be able to move around the battlefield quite quickly. And let me explain why. Let's flip to the perk chart. Okay, so let me explain to you why I've put the points into where I have put them into. So if I start with strength, strength is obviously the critical line for you because it results in how much damage all of your melee attacks do. I've put 9 in. You could potentially argue you could put 10. The reason I haven't put 10 is because the perk for 10 is about power armor, and at the start of the game you don't have power armor. Yes, you get it relatively early, but because you don't have many fusion cores, you don't use it that much. So I feel it's a bit of a waste of a point just to begin with. You can use one of the spare points that are there though to start to use it, and maybe you don't take the perk till later on. I will leave that up to your discretion. For me though, one thing you must have is rooted. So while standing still, you gain 25% damage resistance in melee, and unarmed attacks do 25% more damage. Ultimately, if you're stood in front of someone punching away, that's the time where you need to have your damage output at its optimum, and also if someone's still shooting at you, to be taking less damage. So this is the perfect trait for a melee character, and you've got to take this right from the start. You don't want to be in melee range with people shooting at you, taking loads of damage, because you need to knock that person down, kill them as soon as possible, which this gives you. More damage resistance, perfect. You'll also notice that as a skill line, or the strength line, there are the first 4, I think you're going to populate a lot. So Iron Fist, do more damage. Big Leagues, do more damage from melee weapons. Armourer, just to improve your armour, you're definitely going to take a lot of damage getting yourself into melee range, so having the best armour you can is going to be really important. Blacksmith, how to improve melee weapons. Yes, you're going to need that because you want to optimise your damage output, just the same as a sniper would do to his rifle. Otherwise, the other levels aren't particularly relevant to you. They're about, carrying more and heavy weapons, so they're a bit pointless. If I move on to perception, I would pretty much ignore this. It's all about kind of pickpocketing, riflemen's, identifying specific damage resistance in VATS, locksmith, demolitions experts, night person. They're all a bit sniping, shooting people around corners, and shooting the same part of the body gets increased in accuracy. The only one I choose is probably at level 7, is Refractor, so instantly gain 10 energy resistance. So that could be quite useful because, as I've said, you're going to take damage getting into melee range, so maybe you want to spec that one out. However, to get yourself up to level 7, that's a lot of points that you need to put into that line. So I'd probably ignore it because you want to increase other lines more than perception. So endurance is the next one. I've said to use level 7 endurance, and to be fair, I think it's the only one that I really see that actually directly benefits a melee character. Is this level 7 adamantium skeleton. So your skeleton is infused with indestructible metal, i.e. your Wolverine, reducing limb damage by 30%. So you've got to consider that as you sprint into combat, if someone fractures or breaks your legs, that's it, you're no longer sprinting, so therefore you're going to take more damage. You're going to go into Pip-Boy, you're going to get your stim pack out and heal yourself, all the while you're taking more and more hits. Do you survive it if someone breaks your leg while you're running at them? Probably not. If someone breaks your arm while you're punching them, are you going to be able to punch them? No. So for me, this is really important, and probably the only playstyle, the melee playstyle, that this perk is really relevant to, because if someone breaks my arm, I can still carry on shooting. As a sniper, if someone breaks your leg, you don't really care because you kind of stood still anyway, or crouched anyway. But for melee, those limb breaks can basically kill you, so I would recommend that you put as many points in adamantium skeleton as you possibly can. So choose level 7 endurance. The endurance perk increases the amount of health you have, which is going to be really important. It also reduces the amount of action points that are drained from sprinting, which is very important as well, because you want to sprint in and have as many action points as you can in VATS to keep, so you can punch people a lot once you get there. Past level 7, you've got solar powered, ghoulish and cannibal. These are very passive, not particularly important, things you could probably use later on in the game, but for me, level 7 at the start, putting points into this perk will definitely save your skin a lot. The other ones I'll talk about in endurance, the lower level ones. Toughness, you probably want this as well to increase your damage resistance. Life Giver, increase your overall health. But if you're level 7, you can put points into this perk whenever you feel like, and it just general buffs up to your character. Let's move on to Charisma. I wouldn't put any points in Charisma. There's literally nothing that is going to directly help you smash down enemies, which is what a melee character is all about. There are a lot of passive skills in here. Local Leader, I do recommend you get at some point. Equally, Charisma is helpful just generally in the game, so if you find you just want to increase you've chosen enough perks, you spec yourself out, then Charisma is probably something you want to do, but from the start of the game, not so much. I think the same can be said for Intelligence. There's nothing really that is going to directly benefit a melee character. This Nerd Rage is the hilarious and super OP, but there's no point taking level 10 Intelligence just to get there. Agility, now this is awesome for you. So there's two ways you can play your melee character. You can say, I'm a massive beast, I'm just going to lumber in, I'm like an ogre, I'm just going to bounce into combat, sprint in and just punch people relentlessly. So in that case, agility isn't as important for you. You probably want to spec out endurance and strength more. However, there is things in agility that you do need to consider. You can ignore Gunslinger, you can ignore Commando. If you're the big ogre guy, you can ignore Sneak and Sandman, but you shouldn't ignore Action Boy. So your action points regenerate 25% faster. I think the melee character has such a demand on action points above any other because you are sprinting and then you're going to VATS. If you think a sniper, they sneak in, they've got their action points at maximum and then they start sniping. Once the action points are exhausted, they can still carry on sniping because, you know, you can just aim down sight and off you pop. Whereas a melee style, you sprint in and therefore while you're sprinting in, you're reducing your action points, so you get into VATS and you've got reduced. So you want them to regenerate as fast as possible, because once you knock down one guy, you need to sprint to the next guy. So have your AP points at the maximum all the time is really important. Therefore, for me, Action Boy, that's a level 5 agility skill, is going to be really good. Level 6, this is what I recommend you get it up to from the start. Moving target, they can't hurt where they can't hit. Gain 25 damage resistance, 25 energy resistance when sprinting. You become much harder to kill whilst you're sprinting into combat. So if you're that ogre guy, fantastic, sprint in, knock them down, kick their ass, awesome. Pretty simple, I don't need to explain that any more than it already is. However, the other style of play is you're a sneaky. You're the ninja. You're the kung fu master who sneaks into combat and does the one finger punch death move. Now, if you're that guy, ninja at level 7 is probably where you want to put that extra point. You get 4 times normal damage in a melee sneak attack, which is insane. However, I will suggest that in order to get there, if you're playing a game at a significantly high level, you're going to need a lot of points in sneak, because for me, sneaking into melee range is virtually impossible unless you've got lots and lots of points in sneak. So you might want to consider that. You kind of unlock it anyway as you get into ninja. So yes, that's something to consider. Equally, blitz. So find the gap, make the tackle. VATS melee distance is increased significantly. That's going to be really useful to you, so you can actually use VATS a lot earlier on than you normally would. But yes, that's level 9, which you probably don't need straight away. I'd recommend you get things like moving target, action boy first, get those spec'd out, maybe ninja, that can be useful depending on your playstyle, and see how you get on. Luck is just a general buff in the game. It's just, are you lucky? There's nothing that's going to directly benefit your melee playstyle. I say directly benefit, I mean as a tangible increase in your damage output or damage resistance straight away. There's obviously things like Bloody Mess, which increases your bonus damage, but it doesn't really matter. You can add to this as you want. Better criticals, you can add to this as you want. Depends on what you want to do. Do you want to have a bit more random playstyle, or do you want to try and put more points in Adamantium Skeleton? Entirely up to you. So that's my kind of synopsis of hopefully that's as short as possible as to what I think you should choose for a melee style character. Let me just flip back to the starting registration form screen. And so just to remind you then, strength 9, so you can choose rooted perk when you level up. Perception, ignore to begin with. Endurance, take it up to level 7 so you can get the Adamantium Skeleton. Charisma, ignore. Intelligence, ignore. Agility, level 6 so you can get Action Boy and Moving Target. And then you've got 2 spare. Maybe you want to put that extra point into strength. Maybe you want to take it up to 7 so you can choose Ninja. I'll leave that up to you. I hope you guys found that useful. I hope that kind of gives you some insight and some thought as to what would really work well as a melee character. Please like if that has been useful, if you've enjoyed it. It is massively useful to my channel if you can hit the like button. Hopefully I'll see you in the next episode if you subscribe as well. But otherwise, take care now.